Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I'm Jason Miller. Tonight on the Evan Miller Report, the Islamic State has posted a video online apparently showing the execution of Israeli Arab Mohammed Mossam, who has been accused of being a spy. Also on tonight's program, the UK Met Police has apologized to the families of 3 girls who are missing in Syria after they failed to receive a letter that was intended for them. Boko Haram child captives have forgotten names. About 80 of those children rescued from a camp in Cameroon cannot remember their own names or origins, according to officials in the region. Benjamin Netanyahu says he sees a real danger of losing re-election because the global community is against him. In D.C. news tonight, the Secret Service is testing drones and how to disrupt their flying. Hillary Clinton said today private email was set up for convenience. And President Obama has announced changes for student loan repayments. We have all those stories and more, plus Korea.
Thank you as always, Jay. Protesting students in Myanmar are having trouble fending off the buzz there. Uh-oh. Melinda Gates is echoing the latest load of Merkel in our continuing battle against global socialism. Dunkin' Donuts is deoxidizing their powdered donuts just in time for their return to Cali. In lawsuits across America, I do not like exploiting kids, that is, but one detention facility apparently does. And Robin Thicke and Pharrell are not happy in entertainment. All those stories and more are coming up in today's conservative news source, the Evan Miller Report, starting now.
Live from Southern California, this is the Evan Miller Report. Jason Miller with news and politics, Corey Evan with business and entertainment. This is the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media. Here now, Jason Miller.
And a very good evening on this Tuesday, March the 10th. I'm Jason Miller along with Corey Evan this evening.
Got a little bit of haze here in SoCal, but I don't see any rain, at least this week. But the weather report does say it's supposed to come back next week, and I hope it does, because I want this little drought to be over. Because here at the park that I live in, they just shut down our car wash for the season.
All part of global socialism, ladies and gentlemen. All part of the government.
Oh, and I've got plenty of it coming up.
Yes, absolutely. Coming up in global socialism tonight, a college test prep company has apologized to a Supreme Court justice to comparing him to the KKK. We'll tell you who that Supreme Court justice is and the prep company who made the comments coming up on tonight's program. And Corey Evan has a big day in the entertainment world, a death of a former Miller Lite spokesperson. Top Gear's head host is been suspended from the BBC. We have more on that and much more tonight here on the Evan Miller Report. But first, ladies and gentlemen, we start off with the militant group Islamic State, who has posted a video online apparently showing the execution of Israeli Arab Mohammed Mossam, who the group accused of being a spy. According to Reuters and ITN, they said the video was published by the group's foreign media outlet, showing the Mossam sitting in a room wearing an orange jumpsuit, talking about how he had been recruited and trained by the Israeli intelligence services. Mossam, who's then being shown escorted to a field where he is then shot in the head by a boy who is reportedly about 10 years old, and then is described by the group as one of the cubs of the Capeltate. Reuters and ITN could not immediately verify the authenticity of the footage. Israeli security officials have said they were aware of the video, but could not confirm that it was authentic. And of course, more on this story if there is any that develops. On to the UK now, where the head of the UK Met Police have said sorry to the families of 3 missing schoolgirls in Syria after they failed to receive a letter that was intended for them. The families complained the letter about a friend of the girls who went to Syria in 2014 was given to pupils instead of being sent directly to them. It is feared Shamia Bergram, Amira Abbas, both 15, and Khadija Sultania, 16, left for Syria to join Islamic State. Sir Bergjohn Hogan Howie told MPs he was very sorry the letter didn't get through. However, he said there was nothing more police could have done to prevent the girls from leaving for Syria. In hindsight, we now know that these girls were planning to go, and neither the family, the police, the school, nor anyone else realized that, he told the Home Affairs Select Committee in Parliament. The families of the schoolgirls told the committee they would have done more to monitor the girls if they had known one of their friends had already gone to Syria. All 4 teenagers were friends and pupils at the Bethnal Green Academy in East London. And of course, if there's any more developments regarding this story, we'll keep you up to date on that. Over to Cameroon now, pardon me, ladies and gentlemen, where about 80 children who have been rescued from a Boko Haram camp cannot remember their own names or origins. This according to an aid official who visited them. The children, who are aged between 5 and 18, did not speak English, French, or any local languages, said Christopher Foreman, a director of the U.S.-based National Democratic Institute. The children were found at a camp in northern Cameroon back in November of last year. Nigerian-based Boko Haram militants have extended their campaign into Cameroon. The militants are fighting to establish an Islamic caliphate in northern Nigeria. The children, who were rescued in Cameroon after security forces acting on a tip, raided what they were thought to be a Chronican school. Mr. Folnick told the BBC's Randy Joe Sahi in Yondine that he had visited an orphanage that was helping rehabilitate the children. He said the children had spent so long with their captors being indoctrinated in jihadist ideology that they had lost track of who they were. He said that Mr. Folnick said they lost touch with their parents. They lost touch with people in their villages. They're not able to articulate to help trace their relationships. They can't even tell you what their names are. Meanwhile, a suspected Boko Haram attack on Tuesday killed at least 6 people at a marketplace in the northern Nigerian town of Maiduguri. Moving on to the neighboring Chad, where Chadidian authorities have closed down all schools and universities after deadly protests over new regulations requiring motorbike riders to wear a helmet. At least 3 people were killed over several days of student-led protest. Motorbikes are a popular form of transport in Chad and are frequently used as taxis. Many people oppose the new safety regulation, arguing that helmets are too expensive as well as too hot for the climate. Helmet prices have tripled since the new regulation was introduced earlier this month. Over to Ivory Coast, where their former First Lady Simone Gambando has been sentenced to 20 years in jail for her role in the violence that followed the 2010 elections. Gambando, 65, has been charged with undermining state security. Her husband, former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo, is awaiting trial at the International Criminal Court. More than 30,000 people died in the violence that followed the presidential poll after the ex-leader refused to accept the defeat to Alassane Ouattara. She and her husband were arrested back in 2011 after the troops stormed a bunker where the pair had taken refuge in the main city, Abidjan. And it was the same city where Gbagbo, once called the Iron Lady and known for her fierce speeches, faced trial. She was also accused of disturbing public order and organizing armed gangs. Over to Israel now, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said today he saw a real danger he might lose next week's closely contested Prime Minister's election, and asserted that there was a worldwide effort to ensure such an outcome. In what the Israeli media called an unannounced visit to a rally north of Tel Aviv, Netanyahu traded supporters to make sure he defeats rival Isaac Herzog of the left of the Center Zionist Union Party by casting ballots in the March 17th vote. It's far from being certain. There's a real danger, said the right-wing premier who has been in office since 2009. In footage of the event obtained by Reuters and ITN, Netanyahu said Herzog would seek to renew peace talks with the Palestinians and negotiate about dividing Jerusalem, giving back territory. He was alluding to his rival's promises to seek to revive negotiations that collapsed back in April of last year. Israeli Army Radio earlier aired what it said were comments Netanyahu made on Monday to party activists in which he said, quote, "It is a very tight race. Nothing is guaranteed because there is a huge worldwide effort to topple the Likud government." The radio interrupted his remarks as referring to foreign funding for advocacy groups campaigning for a chance in government in Israel. Likud and the center-left Union Zionist Union Party are running neck and neck in opinion polls ahead of the March 17th ballot, with Netanyahu widely seen by political commentators as having a better choice of forming a governing coalition after the vote. And stay with the Evan Miller Report. We'll keep you up to date on the latest in the Israeli Prime Minister's election. And, of course, the day of the vote, we'll give you the very latest as it becomes available out of Israel. Dramatic footage showing the moment a journalist was robbed at a gunpoint just seconds before going live on television in Africa has emerged. Rufio Malviko, a reporter for South African broadcaster SABC, that has nothing to do with Americans' ABC, just to be clear, was about to deliver a live report from outside Miller Park Hospital in Johannesburg, in Africa, when he was confronted by two men who can be seen grabbing for his pockets. Another TV worker is heard saying, "We are being mugged. We're being mugged." The end of quote. The robbers appear unaware that they are being filmed by the rolling cameras. Describing the terrifying ordeal, Mokvo, the reporter, said, "I was literally seconds from going on the air. When I wasn't giving him the phone, he calls the other one who has a gun." End of quote. He recalled how his colleagues told him to immediately hand over his phone before the suspects fled with numerous electronic goods. Police are investigating the incident, he added. Well, Corey Evan, I haven't seen that kind of issue with stuff being stolen, but having it stolen live on the air, those people got some, what can we say? Can we say this on the air?
I can say gonads. Yeah, something like that. Man, you have to be pretty brazen to steal something in front of I'd say like thousands, if not millions of witnesses, and in broad daylight too. Or are they both the same thing? Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing.
It is disturbing to say the least, and we wish the journalist and his colleagues the very best. Hopefully they can get their stuff back. But knowing a country such as Africa, over in Johannesburg, I doubt it very much that they will get their stuff back. Just the way the political system is over there these days.
Yeah, very nasty. Leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Speak of which, I'll let you go get a glass of water while I read our next story. Pakistan is set to resume executions for all death penalty offenses months after a moratorium was partially lifted to allow executions of terror convicts. All condemned prisoners who have exhausted the appeals process, whose pleas for clemency are rejected, now face execution, according to officials. Executions were suspended for 7 years until some resumed after Peshawar school massacre in December. More than 8,000 people are on death row in Pakistan, human rights groups say. About 1,000 have lost their appeals and had clemency petitions rejected, a senior official told the AFP news agency. According to the BBC's L.S. Khan, who is in Islamabad, he says it is not clear why the moratorium has been lifted at this time. The move, which ends a 7-year-long suspension of executions in Pakistan, was condemned as irresponsible by human rights law firms Justice Project Pakistan. But according to us here at the Evan Miller Report, all we can say is, it's about time.
Oh, yeah.
Corey's famous last words. All right, moving on tonight. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott has been criticized for suggesting that people living in indigenous communities are making a lifestyle choice. Visiting Western Australia, Mr. Abbott said the government could not endlessly subsidize those that don't fit in with the wider Australian society. He has previously said he supports the planned closure of up to about 150 communities in Western Australia. Critics have called the remarks offensive and inappropriate. It was announced in September that the federal government would transfer responsibility for funding indigenous communities to individual states. Speaking to the Australian Broadcasting Corporation's radio station on a visit to Collin Green on Tuesday, Mr. Abbott said that the Western Australian Premier, Colin Barrett, was right to close nearly half of the state's 274 remote communities if the cost of providing services to them outweigh the benefits. What we can't do is endlessly subsidize lifestyle choices if those lifestyle choices are not confined to the kind of full participation in Australian society that everyone should have, Mr. Abbott said. He continued to say, if people chose to live miles away from where there's a school, if people chose not to access the school of the air, if people chose to live where there's no jobs, obviously it's very, very difficult to close the gap. He also added, fine, by all means, live in a remote location, but there's a limit to what you can expect the state to do for you if you want to live there. And, of course, the Prime Minister's choice of words caused many offense in the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, according to the Social Justice Commissioner, Mick Gouda. Mr. Gouda said, quote, that this was a poor choice of words. He himself, as an Indigenous Australian who had advocated on behalf of Indigenous Australians for the past 25 years, he told Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Don't want to get confused with the American Broadcasting Corporation, because the American Broadcasting Corporation has nothing to do with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation that is stayed home by Australians. Isn't that right, Corey Evan?
Absolutely right. And it is a bit of a coinky-dink that they both have the same name, so we gotta step lively.
Yes, stepping lively on the hot coals of international television forums. See, Corey is hell-bent to get on his entertainment report, so I better wrap my international news up so he can get on to some of the day's other news. Finally, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has called the latest U.S. sanctions the most aggressive, unjust, and hurtful step has ever been taken by the U.S. against Venezuela. In a televised address, Mr. Maduro named one of 7 officials sanctioned by the U.S. as his new interior minister. He also announced that he would seek special powers from the National Assembly to defend the integrity of the country. Tensions between the two countries have been rising for months. On Monday, U.S. President Barack Obama issued an executive order freezing the assets of 7 Venezuelan officials and banning them from entering the United States. President Obama also said the situation in Venezuela, including the government's erosion of human rights guarantees, constitutes an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. He declared a national emergency to deal with the threat. In response, President Maduro accused President Obama of personally taking on the task of defeating his government, interfering in Venezuela in order to control it from the U.S. Well, as much as I hate to defend President Obama in any way there, Corey Evan, when President Obama gets control of Venezuela, then we better be scared, because he'll take full control here with the U.S. as a communist dictator. That's all I'm saying. And when that comes, I don't think our military boys who are currently in charge are going to let that stand.
Ooh, better look out.
There might be a follow-up to this story later on, ladies and gentlemen. We only have time to see. All right, folks, I'll be back in just a couple minutes with some of the D.C. news, including the Secret Service to start testing drones and how to disrupt their flying. We'll have much more on that, but first, we send over to Corey Evan up in Los Angeles with some of the day's other news. Corey, take it away.
Consider it taken. Hundreds of baton-wielding Myanmar police have beaten student activists as they broke up another protest pressing for education reform, witnesses say. Crowds of young activists and monks scattered through the streets in the central town of Letpadan when riot police dispersed the rally. Many frantically lashing out as they blocked streets and rounded up protesters, an AFP reporter on the scene said. Activists and authorities said scores of protesters were arrested in the violent crackdown. The crackdown has intensified concerns that authorities are resorting to repressive tactics of the previous authoritarian regime as the nation stumbles toward a general election slated for the end of the year. It also comes just days after Myanmar authorities violently ended a supporting rally in the main city of Yangon, prompting outcry from rights campaigners. The students have for months been demonstrating for reform in Letpadan, but plans by a core group to march to Yangon were halted on March 2nd when police surrounded some 150 activists near a monastery in the dusty central town. The standoff was abruptly ended on Tuesday, according to one student protester, who took shelter with some 70 other demonstrators in the monastery surrounded by police. Soon afterwards, police were seen entering the monastery, according to AFP, and it was not immediately possible to make contact with the protesters. Demonstrators had earlier scuffled with police as they tried to push through the security blockade, after authorities apparently reneged on an agreement to allow them to continue their march. Sounds a bit like what happened in Hong Kong last year. I wonder if they've been in touch with each other. At any rate, student campaigners have been at the forefront of several of Myanmar's major uprisings, including a huge 1988 demonstration that prompted a bloody military assault under the former junta. The government defended its Friday crackdown on an unauthorized rally in the heart of the commercial hub of Yangon, despite accusations from witnesses and campaigners that police and men in civilian clothes beat unarmed protesters with batons. 8 activists were briefly held in the police action, which caused outrage in a country where student activism is a potent political force. Stay with us. We will keep an eye on that story and let you know what happens. After 6 days of treatment, including 2 surgeries that required 80 stitches on his face, U.S. Ambassador Mark Lippert left the hospital on Tuesday and expressed his appreciation for the public's outpouring of support. This from the Jungang Daily out of Korea. Lippert was attacked Thursday morning at a public event by radical activist Kim Ki-jong, shouting for Korea and the U.S. to halt their annual joint military drills. Kim slashed Lippert on his face and left arm using a 25-centimeter or 9.8-inch knife. The top U.S. envoy underwent 2 surgeries simultaneously at Severance Hospital, where he stayed for follow-up treatment. The American diplomat also used the press event to dismiss concerns that the attack would dent relations between the U.S. and Korea. He also said the scary incident will not deter his signature public diplomacy to engage the Korean people. When asked if security protection for him would be improved in the future, the ambassador refused to discuss the specifics for follow-up measures. However, he still says he sees Seoul and Korea as safe. For the press conference, the ambassador was dressed in a dark suit, and bandages were placed on his right cheek over the wound. He also wore a brace on his left arm. Security was heightened for his discharge, and about 100 journalists came to the media conference. About 200 police troops were deployed outside the hospital, and an ID check was conducted on anyone entering the conference. Around 12:40 p.m. local time, the U.S. Embassy in Korea went through the personal belongings of journalists and collected paper cutters. Collecting their paper cutters. I wonder what they're... Oh yeah, that's right, trying to prevent a journalist from pulling... something like what one journalist in Iraq pulled on George W. Bush one time.
Was that a
shoe-throwing
incident? Or...
Yes, it was about the shoe-throwing incident. One of my favorite videos of George W. Bush of all time. He ducked that like a champ.
That's why he was dancing to Pharrell saying, "I am happy."
Yes.
I am happy.
And I assure you, Pharrell is not
That's
happy
all I know.
in the
Corey
upcoming
Evans is the
entertainment
music
story.
maestro over here.
Yes, leave it to me to give you any reports on music. And, of course, like I said, that's coming up in entertainment. Back to our headlines. As our U.S. ambassador to Korea heads home, we head home to jurors in the trial on Tuesday of Boston Marathon bombing suspect Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. They got to see the blood-stained message that prosecutors say he wrote on the inside of a boat he was hiding in before his violent capture, explaining his reasoning for killing innocent people. According to Reuters, quote, "We Muslims are one body, you hurt one, you hurt us all," the message read, citing what it said was aggression in Muslim lands. "I don't like killing innocent people. It is forbidden in Islam, but Duda said it is allowed." The message read with a word missing due to a bullet hole. Boston police officer Todd Brown identified a photograph of the message displayed to the jury on screens in U.S. District Court in Boston, showing bullet holes and blood dripping over the words. Tsarnaev is, of course, accused of killing 3 people and injuring 264 with a pair of homemade bombs at the race's crowded finish line on April 15, 2013, as well as fatally shooting a police officer 3 days later at MIT. And his lawyer is, of course, saying that it was indeed him. And his defense lawyers also argued that his older brother, 26-year-old Tamerlan, was the driving force behind the attacks and that his younger brother followed him out of a sense of submission. Tamerlan died 4 days after the bombing when his younger brother inadvertently ran him over with a car as he fled a gun battle with police. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how they would carry out a death penalty on Dzhokhar in this case, knowing that he ran his brother over.
I think, Corey,
or when his
this
younger
case,
brothers.
So many people in Massachusetts are ticked off about this issue, and this is a federal case, mind you. So this has nothing to do with the state of Massachusetts and their little rule against the death penalty is.
I'm surprised that the feds haven't struck down the death penalty at all.
I don't think they can, though, Corey. So many people were injured and killed. And I think if the feds decided to pull the death penalty off the table on that, and they decided to put him in prison for life, I think that would upset
millions.
Well, not only that, the prison where he is kept would have to be kept so top secret, or else the people who got injured, their families, and if not many Americans, would go storm that prison, and he would be killed himself.
Certainly it would be a Jack Ruby situation.
Right, there's no room, there's no tolerance here in America anymore for people getting away with such things as this. We remember.
Yeah, you see, state leaders,
bombing.
This is exactly why we shouldn't be arguing over the death penalty. We should keep the death penalty because, in this sort of case at least, it illustrates clearly why states need it.
Certainly right. Much more to talk about on that for sure. All right, folks. We're up against a tight break here on the program. But coming up on the program tonight, more Facebook says they're no longer feeling fat. That's according to them, as they removed one of the emotion cons today from their page. We'll tell you more on our continuing battle in. What's that, Corey?
Global socialism.
Exactly. President Obama announces changes for student loan repayments. Is he doing more executive actions? We'll tell you more on that. And a college test prep company apologizes for comparing a Supreme Court justice to the KKK. We got all that, and plus the Brazilian president has signed a femicide law putting people who have raped or assaulted women up to 60 years in prison. All that and more, plus Corey Evan has Jeremy Clarkson being suspended from the BBC. Tell us more.
Oh, yes. Apparently he lashed out against a...
Looks like we lost Corey Evan, but we have more on Jeremy Clarkson, the Pharrell Williams lawsuit, and much more here on the Evan Miller Report, your conservative news source, when we return here on SHR Media.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Is radio.
Pack news. Pack news.
Radio.
Pack news. Pack news.
Radio.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Here's radio.
Live from Southern California, this is the Evan Miller Report. Jason Miller with news and politics, Corey Evan with business and entertainment. This is the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media. Here now, Jason Miller.
And welcome back to the Evan Miller Report for this Tuesday, March the 10th, 2015. I'm Jason Miller. Glad to be with you tonight, and Corey Evan will be along with the business news just a little later, and tonight's lawsuits across America and the entertainment report. But first, a lawsuit filed Tuesday by the operator of Wikipedia and other organizations has challenged the U.S. government's mass online surveillance programs, claiming that tapping into the internet backbone is illegal. The lawsuit was filed in Maryland federal court by the Wikimedia Foundation, Amnesty International USA, Human Rights Watch, and other organizations. It said the effort by the NSA and other intelligence services exceeds the scope of the authority that Congress provided and violates U.S. constitutional guarantees. Jimmy Wales, founder of Wikipedia, said in a statement, quote, "We're filing suit today on behalf of our readers and editors everywhere. Surveillance erodes the original promise of the Internet, an open space for collaboration and experimentation, and a place free from fear." End of quote. The lawsuit claims that by tapping into the Internet backbone, the NSA is seizing Americans' communications en masse while they are in transit and is searching the contents of substantially all international text-based communications, effectively sweeping up data of many people unrelated to the effort to thwart terrorism. Well, I will say to this much, ladies and gentlemen, I certainly wish Wikipedia, Amnesty International USA, Human Rights Watch, and all these organizations who just decided to sue the federal government and the likes of the NSA on this decided to sue this before the Internet Neutrality Law went into effect last week. That certainly would have made a better news headline instead of it just showing up on my AFP wire. But that's just one man's opinion, ladies and gentlemen. And now, it's time for the business news.
Oh yes, over to business we go. And it's not been a great day on Wall Street. The Dow tumbled 332 points. What the? Closed at 17,662. The Nasdaq followed suit, minus 82 points at 48.59, and the S&P 500 lost 35 big ones at 2044. The stocks fell as investors continue to grapple with the prospect of coming Federal Reserve rate hikes, the downside to a strong U.S. dollar, and renewed weakness in the oil patch. Weakness in European stock markets, fueled by another sharp drop in the euro currency versus the dollar, also appears to be weighing on U.S. markets, according to USA Today Money. The CAC 40 of France ended down 1.1%, and the German DAX lost 0.7%. Britain's FTSE got pummeled, closing 2.5% lower. So even the British are dealing with this. I'm certain that's not going well with their team cakes, mind you. Google's longtime CFO, Patrick Pichette, is retiring. Their search giant hasn't yet determined Pichette's last day of work, but in a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission, Google said he intends to assist in finding his successor. The process should be done within 6 months, the company said. Pichette began working for Google in 2008. Pichette leaves Google as the company focuses both on its juggernaut advertising business as well as branching out with audacious initiatives like driverless cars and smart contact lenses. And, of course, Google Glass. In a blog post, he said he wants to leave the company to spend more time with his family and especially his wife as they celebrate their 25th anniversary this summer. Happy anniversary, you guys. There have been other shakeups in top management in the past year. In October, CEO Larry Page said he would step back from a day-to-day leadership role to focus more on the company's future. In his place, he promoted trusted Lieutenant Sundar Pichai, who already ran Google's important Android mobile software business, to take over as Google's product czar. Before Google, Pichette was an executive at telecommunications company Bell Canada. And, Jay, this is one for the donuts listeners out there. Dunkin' Donuts will change its powdered donut recipe so it no longer includes titanium dioxide, which is a whitening agent, according to a statement Tuesday from a Dunkin' Brands official to the LA Times. Donuts! Absolutely. The change comes after an environmental advocacy organization said it found titanium dioxide nanoparticles in the white powdered sugar used in Dunkin' Donuts based on an independent laboratory test in 2013. Titanium dioxide is also used in sunscreen. As You Sow, an Oakland-based group, said the small size of nanomaterials makes it more likely to enter cells, tissues, and organs and cause damage. The FDA does not have a broad stance on products containing nanomaterials, but says it would make safety judgments on an individual basis. The Canton, Mass-based donut company said the titanium dioxide used in their products does not meet the definition of nanomaterial, as outlined under FDA guidance. According to a statement from Karen Raskop, Chief Communications Officer for Dunkin' Brands, the parent company of Dunkin' Donuts. She said the company began testing alternative formulations for the donut in 2014. Sounds like you're enjoying all the donuts indeed, Jay.
Oh, yeah. I haven't had a donut for a long time. I actually want myself some pie.
One of these times I gotta take you to Krispy Kreme. Theirs is awesome. Not to endorse them or anything, but at least until Dunkin' Donuts really comes out in force in California, they are the next best thing, in my opinion.
Alright, that's enough of the donuts.
Good idea.
What else you got?
Right, that's what I've got for business. And Jay, you got the DC stories, or should we go into global socialism? I've got some good ones.
Let's do the DC stories. Thank you very much, Corey.
You're gonna keep me waiting, aren't you?
Oh, spellbinding, isn't it? Patience is a virtue, ladies and gentlemen. That's what my mother always taught me. Patience is a virtue.
Very good, mother.
Cool. Very good indeed. All right. The Secret Service is conducting middle-of-the-night drone flights near the White House in secret tests to devise a defense strategy against the unmanned aircraft. This from the AP. The government-controlled drones will be flown between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. during the next several weeks over parts of Washington, D.C.'s airspace that usually limits off as a no-fly zone, according to a U.S. official briefed on the plans. The official said the Secret Service is testing drones both for its own use in law enforcement and protection, and to identify how to defend against hostile drones. The official spoke on condition of anonymity because this person was not authorized to publicly discuss the plans. Or in my case, Corey, I don't think he was authorized to speak because he doesn't want to get the person doesn't want to get the wrath from Michelle Obama when the drone accidentally crashes in Michelle Obama's bathroom and catches her naked in the shower.
This is not my fault. This was not filmed.
That's a mental image I will never be able to get out of my mind. Oh, thanks a lot, dude. You've just ruined my evening.
All right. Sorry, I could not resist. I could not resist, ladies and gentlemen.
That's disgusting, Jay. Move on.
Hey, but it's true. It could happen. It's very true. It crashes in the White House. You never.
Well,
know
she would richly deserve it. I will admit that.
Wow. So, to one first lady, to a former first lady and former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton has told reporters she used private emails out of convenience during her time as Secretary of State, but Ms. Clinton said it would have been better to have two accounts to separate work and personal emails. The issue of whether Ms. Clinton breached federal records rules has gained attention as she expected to announce a run for president. She is seen as a top contender, blah, 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 for the 2016 Democratic nomination, blah, 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 who cares, blah, blah, blah. Let's move on to the next story. Am I right? Blah, blah, blah.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Fat is no longer a feeling. Well, at least not to Facebook. The company officially removed the, quote, feeling fat emoticon Tuesday after a backlash from a group that says it makes fun of people who feel overweight. More than 16,700 people signed a petition on change.org demanding Facebook take the emoticon down. Facebook said in a statement, quote, we've heard from our community that the listing feeling fat as an option for status updates could reinforce negative body image, particularly for people struggling with eating disorders. Before Tuesday, the feeling fat face was one of the many emoticon options for Facebook users to post in a status update. The activist group Endangered Bodies considers this change a win. And I consider it more political correctness. Why can't I eat donuts whenever I want to? Why can't I eat my pie without getting it dictated by Michelle Obama? All these stories and more coming up in today's, what is it, Corey Evans?
Global socialism!
And we start off tonight's global socialism. And we start off tonight's global socialism tonight with President Obama telling students at Georgia Tech on Tuesday he wants to make the process of repaying student loans easier to understand and manage. Obama signed a student aid bill of rights and spelled out an assortment of policy tweaks and projects to try to make it easier for people with student loans to pay back their debt. He said, quote, we're going to require that the businesses that service your loans provide clear information about how much you owe, what your options are for repayment, and if you're falling behind, and help you get back in good standing with reasonable fees on a reasonable timeline. Obama told a raucous crowd of more than 9,500 students who got some of Michelle Obama's crumpy pie. That was a joke, ladies and gentlemen, that last part. Because if that part was certainly true, it would be making every certain national newscast in the country, with the exception of NBC Nightly News, with their, oh wait, Brian Williams is suspended. What am I saying? Let's go ahead and watch Piers Morgan on ITV. Oh wait, he got fired too. So what do they have to watch? Oh great, they got to watch TMZ. Great. Let's move on.
Oh, yes.
Obama has asked the Treasury and Education Departments and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to report by October 1st on whether bankruptcy laws or other laws or regulations should be changed for student loans. And speak of education, Barron's educational series, the maker of the popular Advanced Placement Study Guides. Do I hear Common Core, anybody?
I think so.
Yep. Well, that company has now apologized for linking Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas to fascism and comparing him to the KKK. The Daily Caller reported Monday about the extreme comparison found on page 168 of their 7th edition of Barron's AP European History Study Guide. It has been brought to our attention that Barron's AP European 7th edition by Seth Roberts and James Ender contains erroneous information that cast aspersions on Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, reads a statement released by the company today. The statement continues to say, in an attempt to draw a comparison between current-day politics in the U.S. and the French National Assembly during the French Revolution, the diagram on page 168 equates Clarence Thomas with the KKK, while labeling him as a reactionary or a fascist. Specifically, the guide linked Thomas, who is black or African American for our politically correct friends who like to listen to this broadcast because they got nothing better to do, is to the racist KKK, stating that both want things to be like they used to be. In its statement, the company apologized and called the comparison an unintentional error. And I don't call it unintentional. I think it's intentional, and they're only removing it because it got a lot of press attention. It's typical.
Yeah, when everyone notices something, that's when it...
All right, folks, before I send over to Corey Evan with the rest of tonight's Global Socialism, over some international global socialism where Brazilia's President Dilma Rousseff has signed a new law which sets tough new penalties for the killing of women and girls. Murderers linked to domestic violence will carry sentences of between 12 and 30 years. President Rousseff said the new law sends a clear message to women that the state would protect them. She said 15 women were killed daily in Brazil. I wonder why. Must have to do with the communist government. Hello! Wake up! In other cases, such as the killing of pregnant women, a woman who's just given birth, girls under 14, or women over 60, the new law provides for even longer jail terms. The new legislation alters the criminal code to describe femicide as any crime that involves domestic violence, contempt, or discrimination against women. And Corey Evan, what I see in a lot of this is a lot of false accusations and possibly some false imprisonment. Just imagine.
Possibly.
Just imagine. Bad joke in the workplace. Some female takes it badly. Oh boy. Sexual harassment. Take it to the court. Guess what? You're in jail for the next 15 to 20 years because you decided to say a joke and decided to use your sense of humor. Goodbye, freedom of speech. Hello, jail cell. And that's my global socialism. Here's Corey Evan with the rest of tonight's Global Socialism.
Oh, yes. The University of Oklahoma on Tuesday expelled 2 students accused of playing a leadership role in a fraternity's racist video. University President David Boren issued a statement saying the investigation into the Sigma Alpha Epsilon video was continuing. Boren said the students had created a hostile environment for students and the university community. WFAA-TV in Dallas, citing multiple unidentified sources, said one of them was Parker Rice, a former Dallas prep school student. The Oklahoma Daily, the university's student newspaper, was among other publications identifying Parker as one of the chant's leaders. Everybody is jumping on... Actually, I'll move on to the CNBC one since we're short on time. Philanthropist Melinda Gates told CNBC on Tuesday that women around the world need to be encouraged to participate in the workforce at the same rate as men. Quote, the gender gaps are particularly in the area of employment. That is, having labor force participation equal to men. We're not even close yet, the co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation said in a Squawk Box interview. She spoke a day after joining Hillary Clinton to unveil a new analysis conducted with the Clinton Foundation of global gender inequality. I think we know exactly what's going on here. Need I read any more into this? I think not. So, when will social media stop having a heart attack over that bloated feeling? Why can't we find a woman who can beat Hillary to run for president? And how many times will Kaiser Permanente call me Ruth Lee? Stay tuned for developments in our continuing battle against global socialism.
And now it's time for lawsuits across America. The cases are real. All rise for the Honorable Corey Evan.
Thank you. As always, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Come to order. Lawsuits Across America is now in session. First item on the docket. Duke Energy officials Tuesday that the company has agreed to settle a shareholder lawsuit linked to the 2012 merger of Duke and Progress Energy for approximately $146 million, according to WRAL. The agreement, which is subject to approval by a federal judge, would end a class action suit that alleged Duke executives and board members misled shareholders about who would be CEO of the utility after the merger. The two companies had agreed that Bill Johnson, who had been CEO at Progress, would lead the combined utility, but he was forced out within hours of the July 12, 2012 merger. James Rogers, who had been Duke's CEO and was supposed to be serving as the merged company's chairman, then assumed the CEO role. The North Carolina Attorney General's Office and the State Utilities Commission investigated the shakeup shortly after the merger, but agreed to end the investigations once Duke agreed to seek input from customers and employees about ways to improve service and internal operations. As part of the lawsuit settlement, Duke and the executives and directors named as defendants denied any wrongdoing, of course. And they will always say that it's going to be to save costs and whatnot. But I think we all know exactly what a lot of these energy companies do. They just pass the costs. Yeah. And somewhere in the me is hidden more fees for their customers. So I think we'll move on. Next up from the Rolling Stone, Robin Thicke noticeably ripped off Marvin Gaye's 1977 hit Got to Give It Up when he wrote the smash hit Blurred Lines with Pharrell Williams and T.I., an LA jury has decided.
What did you say? Did you say blurred what? Blurred what?
Blurred Lines.
Uh-oh. Where's the censorship police? I'm hearing a bunch of beeps going off.
Yes. Because apparently someone on that end of things wanted to get nasty with me. Any rate, that's according to an LA jury. He and co-songwriter Pharrell Williams must pay Marvin Gaye's family $7.3 million as part of the ruling, according to Variety. The verdict puts a rest over a year's worth of legal back and forth between Thicke and Gaye's estate, in which the latter sought $25 million damages. Quote, while we respect the judicial process, we are extremely disappointed in the ruling made today, which sets a horrible precedent for music and creativity going forward, a spokesperson for Williams tells Rolling Stone. Pharrell created Blurred Lines from his heart, mind, and soul, and the song was not taken from anywhere or anyone else. We are reviewing the decision, considering our options, and you will hear more from us soon about this matter. Representatives for Thicke and Gaye's estate were not immediately available for comment. The decision, which hinged on the fact that Gaye's family owned only elements of the sheet music to Gotta Give It Up, came from 8 jurors who listened to testimony from musicologists as well as Thicke and Williams. The $7.3 million number beats the record high judgment in the copyright infringement suit, according to the Hollywood Reporter, who cite the $5.4 million that Michael Bolton had to pay for using elements of the Isley Brothers, or is it Isley Brothers, Love is a Wonderful Thing, in his own... Yeah, it is Isley. In his own song titled Love is a Wonderful Thing. The Blurred Lines legal drama began in August 2013 when Thicke, Williams, and T.I. responded to threats of legal action by the Gaye estate and publisher Bridgeport Music by preemptively suing them along with Funkadelic, claiming Blurred Lines was strikingly different than Gotta Give It Up and the latter group's Sexy Ways. Yeah, before we get any more nasty on this one, I think it's time to declare today's lawsuits across America case dismissed. Moving on to entertainment, Wendell D. Middlebrooks was found dead on Monday morning. The 36-year-old actor was discovered at his home in LA's San Fernando Valley, according to TMZ. It's not known if he was pronounced dead or at the scene or later on at the hospital. He was best known for playing the delivery man in the Miller High Life commercials, but was also on several TV shows, including NBC's Parks and Recreation. Excuse me. Yeah, I was starting to foam at the mouth hearing that one, but anyway. The star was found unconscious at his home on Monday morning, a source told the Daily Mail. He was then taken by ambulance to a hospital. There did not appear to be any foul play, a source also told the site. And he also worked with Courtney Cox on Cougar Town and Danny DeVito in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Well, Philadelphia is certainly not having some sunny days today, unfortunately. Moving on to our...
Chance of rain.
I thought you were going to say a chance of meatballs.
You
Yeah.
don't know me at all, then.
Nope, I don't. Yeah, good idea. According to ITV out of Britain, the BBC has suspended Top Gear host Jeremy Clarkson amid claims that he aimed a punch at a producer. All remaining episodes of the current series have reportedly been postponed by the broadcaster. That is indeed a serious ouchie right there.
That's a serious ouchie.
Yeah. Meanwhile, thousands have already signed a petition calling for the controversial presenter to be reinstated. The Radio Times reports the alleged incident involving a male producer took place last week, but was only reported to the BBC yesterday. All 3 remaining episodes of Top Gear have reportedly been postponed while an investigation is launched. Earlier, Clarkson took to Twitter to joke with co-stars Richard Hammond and James May about what programs could fill Top Gear's usual slot on Sunday night. James May tweeted to Jeremy, "No Top Gear this weekend apparently. How about 633 Squadron instead?" To which Jeremy replied, No, we're Eagles Dare. Much better. I did some pretty good war documentaries, they could screen one of those. And then Richard Hammond had his say, "No, surely, Last of the Summer wine. No one will notice the difference." Job done. And right now, ITV News is trying to contact Jeremy Clarkson for his direct response to the allegations. I'll let you know what his response to all of that is when it comes up. And Jay, you know how you're into the 007 series of films?
Yes.
Well, apparently the next 007 Bond girl is going to be a Mexican, and if I can pull up that story, I had a little bit of problem with my phone earlier. I had to close out something because of a little glitch, but I've got the story back up now from the UK Daily Mail, if that'll load up. Her name is Stephanie Sigmund, and according to the AP, she starred in the award-winning 2011 Mexican film Miss Bala about a beauty pageant contestant involved with drug traffickers. So, at least in that sense, she'll be perfect for the role. Linda Christian, the Hollywood starlet of the 1940s who was born in Mexico, was arguably the first Bond girl. So, obviously, she's not the first, and she'll probably not be the last, even after Daniel Craig. So, I just thought I'd let you know all of that, Jay, so you can be aware of it for the upcoming movie Spectre. That's the next 007 film.
And we're looking forward to that as always. And I'm looking forward, big week at the box office at least. A lot of good films coming up on that, and you'll have that on Thursday's edition of the Evan Miller Report.
Yes, I always like to do the upcoming box office Thursday and Friday, so listen up for that. Even if I'm not here, I'll record it for you, and you'll hear it.
All right, and that's the Entertainment Report, and that is the Evan Miller Report, ladies and gentlemen, for this Tuesday, March the 10th, 2015. I'm Jason Miller.
And I'm Corey Evan. Follow us on Facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report and tweet us at EM Radio Report and at SHR News Desk. You'll be glad you did. For all of us here at SHR Media, we thank you very much for listening, and we hope you'll tune in again tomorrow. The Exceptional Conservative Show is up next with Ken McClinton.
Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.